So, Ricky Gervais, you familiar with Ricky?
I heard about a monologue he gave at an awards ceremony where he just devastated people for like 10 straight minutes. That's all I know.
It was pretty epic. As far as comedians go, I think he's probably the greatest stand-up alive right now. It may be him and Brian Regan, but he is absolutely hilarious. But self-declared atheist, very vocal about it, and but not very sophisticated. Even worse than Dawkins is. And so when he was asked about why he doesn't believe in God, he used this anecdote, and this is going to get us back to omnipresence. And I want you to respond to Ricky Gervais for us here. So he was in class, and the teacher said, God is everywhere. And he said, and you can see why this would be funny in a stand-up act, oh yeah? Is he in my butthole? So what's the answer to that question? Is God in Ricky Gervais's butthole?
Nice. I love how you made
You're
it
welcome.
just immediately applicable. You set me up with just very, very easy questions that I can comport myself admirably, and just kind of stay clean over here. So St. Thomas says that God is present to all of creation in three ways. So by essence, presence, and power. So the first way we talked about, God is giving all things being. The next is like all things are transparent to God's gaze, so there's nothing that escapes the bounds of his providence. Mm-hmm. Okay? And then the last is he gives them agency. So he gives those things to act as those things are. So maybe setting aside the concrete particulars of this question, let's just talk about Ricky Gervais as a man. So God is making him to be, continually. So he is in being. And Ricky Gervais is taken account of in God's providential design, so that even if Ricky Gervais kind of departs from the Lord by being crass, by denying his existence, by potentially leading others away from God, yet God has accounted for that and tries to draw him sweetly and strongly back to him in the manner of mercy. And then God is, present to him by power. God is making Ricky Gervais to act as a human being in a properly human way, right? So God is not a puppeteer. God is not interested in making automata who worship him automatically because he needs the adulation of so many little robots. But God is making him to be as he is. So in those three ways, God is present to all of creation. And that includes Ricky Gervais.
Let me ask a less disgusting question then, because it gets to the same point. Is God inside this cup?
So inside that cup, I'm assuming there's coffee or spirits or water.
Sure.
Nice. I'm rocking some chai tea over here, so
this is sorry. Keep going. Chai tea.
Go.
Well, I mean, it gets to the same question. We want to think God's inside, he's again. We're getting back to this kind of spread out like a gas kind of thing. Yeah. So I mean, without kind of having to rehash what you just said, because maybe you've already answered it. If someone were to just say, okay, God's everywhere, is he inside this cup? Is there another way you could explain that? Suppose I'm 5, how would you explain that?
Right. I'd say that God isn't in this cup like the liquid. He's not in the cup as contained within the cup, as if God were like a beverage to be poured out. But God is present everywhere insofar as he makes those things to be. If you were 5, I would probably talk about it in terms of God's knowing and loving. So I would say God knows the interior of that cup. From the dawn of creation, God foresaw how the interior of that cup would play into your particular story of salvation. That from the interior of that cup, you would be, you would have your thirst quenched. You would be fortified to worship him, to seek your vocation, to glorify him in your state. And what is more, God has loved the inside of that cup. For even though it is small, nothing has escaped his glance. Nothing has escaped his providence. And he has accounted for all the, small, delicate details of your life, so that by many bonds, by many tethers, he might draw you to himself. Not because he needs you, but he knows that he has made you to love him, that you are to be filled in loving him. So yes, God is in a certain sense in the cup. He is giving it being. He is making it to act. It is transparent to his gaze, and it is all taken account of by his knowledge and his love.
Fair enough. So that's a good answer. So while Father Gregory Pine doesn't know what is in this cup, God certainly does.
Thank you for watching this clip. You can click here to watch the full episode. And I want to say a big thanks to our sponsors and to our amazing patrons for making all of this possible. Please do us a favor before you go. Click that subscribe button and then the bell. And that way YouTube will be forced to let you know every time we put out a new episode.